everyone, my name is Bianca Stakes and this is my persuasive speech for speech project number 1. Is recreational reading a waste of time, or is it something that can grab your heart? When I was in high school, I had a really challenging teacher who always made me think about literature in a way that was different. She pointed me to literature in a direction that made me think about it in terms of applying it to my life. And I didn't realize that until college. I read this particular book, A Lesson Before Dying by Ernest Gaines, and I didn't realize the impact it would have on me until I reached college. I actually forgot about it after high school, and then it came back into my life in college. I read it in high school, and then when I was in college, I worked for the student newspaper at UL Lafayette, and I was given an assignment to take pictures at a book reading at the library. And little did I know that it was going to be by the very author of this book I read, A Lesson Before Dying by Ernest Gaines, from high school. And I was so surprised that I was going to get to meet him, and I was going to get my book signed, blow the dust off of it from high school, and see him there and have the honor of taking pictures of him as well. So it was really great to reconnect with that book and recall the lessons that I learned from it. And so today I'm going to talk to you about 2 great things I learned from this book, and they're 2 really important reasons why I think you should read A Lesson Before Dying by Ernest Gaines. So the first reason is because of the injustice in the book. The book is actually about a man named Jefferson who was in the wrong place at the wrong time. The book took place in the 1940s during the time of serious segregation. So this guy named Jefferson simply went to the liquor store that was owned by a white man. And this white man was behind the counter simply selling liquor to these 2 black men that had walked in. And these 2 black men had orchestrated a robbery. And so while they were robbing the guy, they shot him. And Jefferson innocently walked in, and when these 2 guys fled, the cops showed up and Jefferson was accused of the murder. So the 2 things we can learn from this book are injustice and impact. So the first point I want to talk about is injustice. Jefferson was accused of the murder wrongly. So when he was put on trial, the first problem was the jury was all white, and this was not fair. There was not a fair demographic. Second, the court-appointed attorney did not fairly defend Jefferson. This attorney, who was supposed to be fighting for Jefferson, he referred to Jefferson as an animal. And he also said that because Jefferson was black, he wasn't smart enough to come up with a well-orchestrated robbery. That was his defense for Jefferson. That wasn't fair, and it was a solid example of injustice. So the problem with this example of injustice, or the problem that this example portrays, is that injustice is a huge problem. Not only was it a problem in the 1940s when this book took place, but it's also a huge problem now. We see it every day in the news, whether it's with sexual orientation, religion, race, anything. There's so many different things going on these days. Injustice is a huge problem, and there's so much proof to back it up. The harms in this issue is that there's unnecessary killing going on. Because Jefferson was convicted, the jury also said he was guilty. And so he was going to spend some time in jail, and then he was going to receive the electric chair. He was unnecessarily going to die. And because of this injustice, and injustices that take place today, a lot of times injustice results in revenge. People get angry when injustice takes place. They want to get revenge. And so there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of hate, and that's the harm that normally comes with injustice. So the solution to this is, first of all, to create fairness in the court system, and to create fairness in this particular situation, even though it's fictional and it took place in the 1940s, would have been for race. Obviously there was a racial issue going on. The entire jury was white, and the attorney didn't treat Jefferson fairly. also think it would have been important to be educated in that time and in this time. It's important that the courts as well as the citizens are educated with what's going on in the court systems. It's very important that we know laws. It's very important that we know what happens as a result of consequences or as a result of when we don't do something wrong and we're accused of something wrong. It's important that we know how to defend ourselves and laws, and as far as being in the courts and things like that, we need to know how to stand for ourselves in terms of knowing all of the judicial system. So the next point I'm going to talk about for a lesson before dying is impact. So while Jefferson is spending his time in jail while he's waiting for his execution in the electric chair, his godmother, Miss Emma, she calls upon a local teacher at the local plantation school, Grant Wiggins, to eliminate this problem that Jefferson has, because now that he has been treated this way in trial, a new problem has developed. He feels like garbage, obviously. He's been wrongly accused, and because he was treated so badly, he knows the inevitable is going to happen. He's going to die, but he's going to die feeling like he's worthless. He's going to feel like he's not worthy of defending, and he's going to feel like an animal. So, like I said, to solve this problem, his godmother, Miss Emma, calls on Grant. So what Grant does to solve this problem is he consistently visits Jefferson, and at first he doesn't really get through to him very well, but he continues to try to have an impact on Jefferson's life. And how it ends up happening is they end up both growing. They end up both having a new perspective on life, and they end up both bonding and figuring out what it's like to have an impact on each other's life. And that's what my point is you just don't know just how impactful you can be in spending time with someone else, especially when they're having a hard time. Jefferson was in the lowest of the low point of his life. He was about to die for something he didn't even do. And Grant took time out of his day to visit Jefferson every day in jail to show him that he meant something and he was worth something, even though he was dying for no good reason. So the two main reasons I think it's really important to read this great literary work by Ernest Gaines, A Lesson Before Dying, is because it shows the injustice in the world. It also shows the impact you can have on other people just by spending time with them. Choosing not to read this book is like ignoring the truth that's going on in this world. Injustice is so real, and also having an impact on a person's life is something you can do each and every day. My encouragement to you is to take Mr. Gaines' literary advice in his works and just realize that fiction can be just as impactful as nonfiction, and literature is at our very fingertips. Who doesn't want to know the truth? Thank you.